What's going on? My name is Nate, and this may be your first time watching my videos. If it is, welcome. If it's not, welcome back. So in this video, I am going to be talking about my experience on Alcatraz Island doing the night tour on said Alcatraz Island. So if you're curious about that, stick around and let's talk about it. Super quick. At the end of this video, you can totally skip to it. I have a video that I took of one of the tour guides demonstrating how the doors open and close on the cells. It sounds so cool. If you're wearing headphones, highly recommend just skip to the end of the video and watch that, and then come back and then watch the rest if you want. But it's there. It's so cool. I don't want you to miss it. Please watch it. Alright, so before we get into my experience on the night tour, I would love to talk about the history of Alcatraz Island, just so we're all on the same page. You probably already know at least the name Alcatraz or have heard of Alcatraz, but you might not be familiar with the actual history. So Alcatraz was originally opened, it was not named Alcatraz, it was opened under like a military, it was like a military prison. And from the years of 1857 up until 1933, from 1857, which is crazy. Can we think about that for a second? That's almost 200 years. Between that time period, it was a military prison. From the years 1909 to 1911, the military prisoners built the prison, which is so nuts. In 1934, Alcatraz became a prison for just the general public, and now it became known as like the worst prison imaginable, like the worst of the worst go to Alcatraz Island because of its location. It's surrounded by choppy, cold water, and it's super windy all the time on that island. So it's very difficult to try and escape off the island, regardless of the actual prison itself. So if you escape the prison, you might not be able to get off the island. That was the whole intention of it. Alcatraz was a prison from 1934 to 1963. It was closed because of its high maintenance cost, which I guess just makes sense. 6 years after Alcatraz closed, so in 1969, there was a group of Native American Indians that were trying to get Alcatraz back to their people because it was stolen from them, like most of the land in America. And so they did this by protesting, by living on the island. And it wasn't just a few people, it was hundreds of people at like the peak. And this was until 1971. So for about 2 years, really, it was like 18 months or so, they occupied this island and they were trying to show and say, this is our land. And you can still see that stuff today. They preserved almost everything that they wrote on the property, which is really, really cool. And then in 1973, Alcatraz opened as a national park. It got that title in 72, but it opened in 73 as the national park. And it remains to this day. So it's really, really cool. To purchase your ticket, I just purchased mine online. If you search Alcatraz Night Tour, it'll come up. I believe you can also buy tickets in person, but I would buy them online just so you can ensure that you have the time slot that you want on the day that you want. Because you can pick a time slot that you depart from mainland to go to the island. And there's also time slots that you pick when you leave the island to come back to the land. That you decide when you're on the island. So I stayed until 9:50 was the last ferry on the island, and I left at 7:05. So I was on there for just about 2 hours, I would say. It's probably like a 15-20 minute ferry ride from Pier 33, which is where it departs from. Pier 33. You depart from there. And it's about 20 minutes. It's a really nice ferry ride. You get to see the city. It's gorgeous. It's so beautiful. I think it's like worth it, the ferry ride. So you get on the island, and then you're on the island, you're free to explore. Do keep in mind that when you get on the island, you're on the ground level. Alcatraz is pretty high. It is paved the whole way. There are some areas where it could be a little bit steep, but overall it felt pretty gradual. So keep that in mind. They do also, once you get in on the island and into the prison, they shuffle you through what used to be the showers, and that's kind of where they give you your the audio tour. So you can do that, and that's just included. And I did that. It was really neat. I got some cool history about what I was looking at. I found it kind of difficult to follow because I wanted more information, but it really was just about like 4 or 5 topics or like rooms. I was actually able to kind of walk out on the front of the island. It's kind of hard to explain, but I walked out of the front of the island and kind of down the side, and then I walked down the front side facing the city. I walked on that side going down, and it was so gorgeous. I'm telling y'all, you have to go down that pathway. It's open and it's paved. There was beautiful flowers everywhere. There's all these birds everywhere. The sun was setting. Like, just look at this video that I took. Like, it's just so peaceful and beautiful. And it was just me. I was the only one that was walking down there because of the wind and because there was just not a crazy amount of people on the island. So it felt very exclusive. And I got to see the Golden Gate with the sun setting, and everything was just so perfect and beautiful. Truly one of the top 3 most beautiful moments of my life. And I'm not even exaggerating that. And after that, I walked up this staircase that went into the courtyard. And so once you're out in the courtyard, it's just this massive courtyard. And I'm standing out there thinking, if I were a prisoner, how crazy that would be. Being stranded on this island while seeing the Golden Gate, one of the prettiest bridges ever constructed, and then being right next to San Francisco. It's just crazy to even imagine it. And then being stuck in Alcatraz on top of all of that. Like, come on. Because of the night tour, they often will like open certain areas that are exclusive to the night tour. For example, they open the infirmary. And I didn't know that that was happening. And then all of a sudden I was like in the cafeteria, which is so cool. You get to see their meals. And I was like around the cafeteria, and then all of a sudden there was this like door that opens to this little narrow staircase that went upstairs. Then it opens into the infirmary. And this was so cool. This felt like out of a movie scene. Just everything was so sharp and like cold and just, like if I was sick, oh God, it just had such uneasy, cold energy to it. It was so neat just getting to see it all and just imagine it. And they opened that because of the night tour. So that's why I recommend the night tour again. There was a tour guide that was demonstrating the doors and how the cell doors, how they operate, and how it's kind of like a hook, and like there's a crank that you do, and what it does is it kind of goes down and then it grabs the door that you want to open. This was innovative because the doors would open sideways and because the guards don't have to open the door. Because of this, they're able to, the track goes out, it grabs the door that it wants to open, and then it opens the door. And the whole mechanism is so loud and it echoes insanely through the prison. Right after the demonstration of the gates, that was like it. That was kind of it. We all walked down to the ferry, then took the ferry back to the mainland, to San Francisco. Now, the final question, was it worth it? I'm sure you can assume that my answer is yes, based on what I've been talking about and how I've been talking about it. It cost $65. It was like 64 bucks and change. For myself, that felt fine. I feel as though I got my money's worth and then some. I think if they didn't open the infirmary, I would still feel pretty satisfied with my experience. All right, so that's that. Like I said, highly recommend it. It was awesome. I'm sure the day tour is just as amazing. I do recommend the night tour, like I said. With that being said, I'm gonna play the video right after this, so enjoy that. If you have headphones, turn them up a little bit. It just sounds so cool. And you can imagine what it's like being there. So anyway, I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Please stay safe. I love you. And let's talk in the comments. Also, if you have been to Alcatraz, let's talk about it. Anyway, I love you. Stay safe, and I'll see you next week. Bye.